Commissioner of Administrative and Financial Services. Listened intently to the discussion. I think two themes emerged from the very earliest question from Representative Farr to the last question and comments by the chairs. One is the issue of timing, and the second is the issue that you appear to be concerned about in the way in which messages were communicated to you. And I think the linkage between communications and timing is the message, and that is that there is an urgency to act, and an urgency to deal with the issue that I think we all share, the importance of paying our bills on time. From the messaging point of view, I can illustrate very clearly my intent and my style and my message to you prior to May 8th, when I delivered the change package, when I worked with the chairs and the staff and let them know that we would burn the midnight oil and get the change package ready as soon as possible after the forecast, even before we knew what the forecast would be. We did that. We worked from the very time that the forecast was formalized in that early week of May 1, and before the governor on May 3rd with our plan, and before you on May 8th with that plan. The very first words out of my mouth, and I'm pretty anal because I make notes and I make it very clear at every point of the way, I said to you, this is a change package. It is a 3-year plan to get the budget back into balance and to deal with the revenue shortfall in the second and third years, namely the biennium, and how we propose to fill those gaps and get us into balance. And I said at the moment, and I said it because I always try to make sure that the newer members hear the message. This is not a supplemental budget. This is a change package. However, you have an opportunity to do a supplemental if you choose to deal with those issues that are most immediate and emergent in FY13. And as Senator Flood mentioned, there are just 3 spending pieces. The $35.3 million, that is the sum and net total of the needs that DHHS has between now and June 30th. And that is a product of months of work, Representative Carey in particular. It is, so you know the picture, the emergence of the net calculations of what Part U saving can be administratively achieved, multiple, if not dual tracks of forecasting the need, looking at that 1.9 hospital push that was not clearly dealt with, and arriving at a 35.3 total, 33.3 on the cycles, 1.9 on the hospitals, that we, and with the governor's clear message, do not want to push. We do not want to see those bills go unpaid before this fiscal year is out. There were 2 other issues, and I made my point here as clearly as I could. We had done our best to meet the indigent legal assignment to us, but we needed another $1 million. That issue will start to ripen very soon, too. We have sent to the governor, he has processed 2 financial orders that get us through May, but we're getting into June very quickly, and we're in the need to deal with that issue. We have the milk issue that you heard about on Friday, and we know that that's an issue that's very timely for the farmers involved and cannot wait for action to occur after June, because it will be untimely for the need. There is one other piece that is language-driven, but which the governor and the Board of Corrections and the sheriffs have talked, and that is the ability in the language piece to allow the Department of Corrections to self-fund about $800,000 of needs at the regional Board of Corrections level in order for those regional jail entities to pay their bills and deal with the prisoner population. So with that kind of backdrop and messaging coming from me on May 8th, the other part of why I didn't suggest to the governor that we do a supplemental was that there are 7 line items that bring in money in FY13. Most of them from my department alone, but in my 1-page summary, I think you all saw that we get a little bit of money from an old account in DEP and thing. We get 6 items in my department, and we get a little bit more that makes the FY13 number have a balance, and that balance of 7.7 is useful in the biennium. So if there's a messaging problem from that May 8th communication and my attempt to work with you and your staff before the fact and get it to you as early as possible, I guess I can accept blame, but I don't really feel that there was any attempt at any point in the way to mislead you. That we had a problem and we knew it was going to become an issue. 35.3 out of a total of 45.4 million of new revenue is a huge slice of that one good news piece that came out of the revenue forecast. Now, the 28th of May is not a date that I settled on, but let me just, so I can back it into and make it all clear to all of you. The DHHS staff, Stephanie and her people, produce a voucher, a cycle voucher. It comes to the controller on the Wednesday evening before it is due to be paid. The controller must assure that there is adequate allotment in the accounts that are involved in order to process that, send it to the treasurer, get the bills, get the checks in the mail, and make that cycle payment, usually on a Thursday. So it's a 24-hour turnaround, and it's critical that we have allotment in those three accounts that I believe are most commonly in need of allotment to pay the main care cycles. When that DHHS calculation came to us as we were working during the first week of May to give the governor a package, it was 33.3 on the cycles, 1.9 on the hospitals, 35.3 in total, and there was a complete backup of all of the Part U offsets that have been put together, all of the assumptions for the remaining cycles in June, and that is the information that Commissioner Mayhew has mentioned we have had and have been working on for literally weeks and months. Now, backing up, and I'll stop and see if there are questions, to the 28th, understand that if the voucher comes to the controller on the evening of the 12th for the first cycle in which we believe we will be underfunded for the main care payments, that is preceded by financial orders. After a bill gets enacted, sent to the governor, is reviewed by the governor, either is signed by the governor or allowed to become law without a signature. That's the flexible period of time that we know you have to plan on. May 28th is the first day after Memorial Day, and clearly a 10-day clock starts to run if the bill were on the governor's table at that point in time. The financial orders that would be involved in those three accounts are so easily addressed that we think we could turn them around in 24 hours. And I've checked to make sure they don't require 30-day waits with you, and they don't. So it's a matter of backing from the 12th, when the payments have to come in voucher form to the controller, to give us 24 hours to get the financial orders done and the allotments moved, and we're in business. But you can't presume that we have a law to work with unless you have a bill that's on the governor's desk and is found acceptable and becomes law. So that's the backdoor chronology that I think is troubling to some of you, but make no bones about it. There are two ways that you can cure this. One is you can have a supplemental budget, and two, you can act on a change package ASAP. And I tried my darndest to make it clear to you that we were choosing the one single budget bill because we felt everything is a high priority, and the three-year sequence needs to be put back in balance first and foremost. And there are so many items still yet to be acted upon that make that calendar and that clock a concern for all of us who work in this room, all of us who are watching from the outer world, and know that urgencies abound. This is one of the more immediate, but don't dismiss the indigent legal or the milk or the importance of the Board of Corrections getting their money. They also are waiting for action. So two options. You can act now either by dealing with a supplemental that you ask for authority to report out, or if you want assistance, I'm sure the administration can assist in breaking down the very few items in that first column of my one-day supplement and acting upon them as soon as you're ready and getting them to the governor and getting the process in the works. We can work our way through this. This is not rocket science, nor is it impossible in any way to avoid the disruption and dislocation that would occur if we let the clock continue to turn and action continue to abound and wait. So I'm sorry to be lengthy. My part of the messaging process is, I think, been clear from the beginning. I go out of my way to be as clear and as precise as I can. I think I made it clear that the choice for change package was made at our end because we wanted to deal with all three years. The choice now is in your territory as to whether you want to separate 13 and deal with it more quickly. And I think quickly is important, and that's the message that we're all trying to convey today.
So Commissioner Millett, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for your explanation. And thank you for the suggestion for 2 ways to approach hearing this. And I just want to remind you that with regard to the change package, we did just have a public hearing on Friday. And after that, that afternoon, the committee came out with a substantial amount of voting on that change package. So
yeah, I know you haven't.
I think we picked up a good pace as soon as the public hearing was able to happen.
Interestingly, too, Senator, not a word was said against the 35.3, nor was there a word spoken in any way that says we don't have to do it. So it is, I think, a fact that's been conveyed to you, and I think that, we're just waiting to get it.
Yeah, I agree with you. We heard hear anything against indigent legal services. We only heard from Milk, so that was a good way to narrow down those issues. Just Friday, though. Senator Fleming's question.
Thank you, Ed. A couple things. If I could just ramble on for a second, I appreciate it. Did want to say, first of all, I said before, I thought that two of the commissioners in this room had the most difficult job in state government, perhaps alongside Senator Hill and Representative McConville. But I did want to say that, full disclosure, the gentleman at the mic has been my best advisor over many years, and I think he's got a tough job and he's doing a very good job of it. And I do recall the communications that you referenced, and I think you're very good at communicating that stuff to us. I guess I want to first of all say I am probably one of 13 members of the committee who are very thankful for the $45.5 million of revenue that came in year 13 at this point. And I did want to say that my preference would be a second supplemental bill. And the Commissioner has mentioned the latest possible dates, or he's given us the rationale behind the dates that need to go along with that. A bill for $39.3 million leaves us $7.7 million still. And if the need seems to be somewhat more than $39.3 million, we've got $7.7 million that we can work with. So there's flexibility, I think, on date, and I think there's flexibility on how the final tweaks on the numbers might take place. So I remember when I was chairing the committee that I blew it once because there was a need for some funding, and we had a bill at our disposal here in the committee, and I used it to put together a bill request. And Senator Rosen and I did that, and I think after having done it, realized the blunder that the typical process would be the administration goes first. And I can remember Commissioner Millett giving his student a lecture about usually we go first. So I didn't know if there was a preference. The commissioners told us of several ways we can go about this. I didn't know if there was a preference from the commissioner's standpoint or from the chair's standpoint how we do that. I think once we do that, we can kind of be on our way, but maybe it won't be quite that simple, but I think deciding that methodology, I think, is pretty important for us today. I did, thank you.
Was there a question after?
There was one.
Well, as I said, there are two methodologies. He's added a third that I haven't thought about. If you have a vehicle within the committee that you weren't going to use, you could certainly use that. But interestingly, Senator Flood, the Transportation Committee took a different position than the one that you are in today, in that they knew, and they only got to hear their biennial budget last Tuesday, but they knew that they had a supplemental need in 13 because the forecast was negative for them. So we talked when we had the public hearing last week, within 24 hours, they opted to say, don't bother with a change package that covers all 3 years. Give us a supplemental in 13 immediately, and we did that. We actually, with Melissa's help and the governor's staff sign-off, we put together a rebalancing of the highway fund in a matter of 24 hours. We've got a governor's bill title, and it's in the works and will be forthcoming very quickly. So there's two ways. You can ask for a bill or use one in your possession, or you can ask for us to expedite it and simply pull those items, or as many or all of those items on the first column into a separate bill, and we can consider that option.
Thank you for that as well. Senator King.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. I'm sorry I was late. I was listening actually since the minute the gavel came down. So thanks to the modern technology, I was able to listen on my way in. Commissioner, I have a technical question. I think it's for you. It may be for Chris Nolan, maybe for the Commissioner, which is I know this time of year, and usually once in the fall, maybe November, we do the hospital transfer tax payment. It's about $40 million or so. I think at the end of last week it had not been transferred over yet. I'm wondering if that has happened yet, to your knowledge, and if that's been, I assume it's been accounted for in all of this, but I'm just checking.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been accounted for in the end of year settlement balance. I want to defer to Commissioner Mayhew as to.
I'm seeing a couple heads nodding over there, so I think that the answer is yeah.
Is that a positive?
They're giving you a positive head shake, yes, not a negative head shake.
That would be my answer too.
Thank you.
In the affirmative.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Representative Sanborn and then Senator Flood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank Senator Flood and the Commissioner for kind of restoring a sense of tone and letting us know what our options were. It seems in real contrast to what we were hearing last Friday evening with the letter from the Commissioner to the Governor and the Governor to our leadership that we had a big problem, and it kind of sent us up in there was a sense of panic, which is why I think we're all here today, and cameras are here today, and what have you. So it was my understanding that we clearly had a shortfall in the DHHS budget, as Commissioner Mayhew and you have alluded to. That wasn't a surprise to us. It was the short time that it needed to be fixed that seemed to come out of the blue and not being presented to our committee chairs and leadership in particular, and kind of came through the back door. So again, I just want to thank you all. I love the work of this committee and the way that we can work together, and I feel confident that that can go on and we can get the good work done. So thank you.
Senator Flood.
Thank you. Feeling a little guilty that I hadn't asked the question before, I just wanted to ask Commissioner Millett if you had a preference. Would it be more, if we did something to address this year 13, these three pieces immediately, would it be your preference that we go ahead and do that, or is that something that you feel you would be more comfortable that you and the administration put forward a bill?
Well, my boss is sitting behind me, and I would not want to infer that I have the absolute answer, but I think the bottom line answer is let's get it done. And if it's quicker for us to do it, then I can commit my staff to do it. If it's quicker for you to do it, the bottom line, I think, is that we want to get it done and avoid that issue of, the providers are waiting, watching, I'm sure, wondering if they're going to get paid or whether they're going to have to dig into their cash flows and temporary borrowing even further. So the bottom line that I would go on, Senator, is whatever's quicker and easier, let's get it done.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And again, my experience in the past has been that the protocol typically is that the administration will do that. Want to be absolutely sure that point out that the administration did that in the change package that you gave us. You outlined all that in there, but maybe segregating that out. I just know that I know that it's been the protocol in the past, and that seems like that would make sense. But I like you, I don't really care. Whatever goes quickest. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Flood. Representative Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your time, Commissioner. You had reminded us in the beginning of this about three of the other large items in the budget, the Mill Department of Corrections and the County Jail Program and the Division of Legal Services. And is it fair to assume that because you haven't brought a date to us before May 28th, each of those have a insolvency date after June 12th, is that correct?
They do, and maybe on the indigent case, we've been doing this every 2 weeks now. We've processed 2 financial orders, that I believe get us through all of the obligations that need to go out in May, but we will have another deadline in mid-June, so I think that one is coming up rather quickly. I can't put a precise date on it right at the moment, Representative, but and as well on the milk issue, which you heard testimony extensively on Friday. Obviously, you travel around the back roads of Maine, and you know that silage corn is being planted as we speak, and many farmers are into a credit line to get their own seed. So the urgency, I think, is almost self-evident there. And on the water corrections, it is the language piece that we want, and clearly the need would ripen in June as well.
Sometime in mid-June after June 12th.
I'm assuming so. I know Jody Brutner's here, and she could probably put a finer point on it if need be. But they're like you. A couple of counties, as you know, have expressed some concern about taking prisoners, and while I wasn't part of that discussion, I think the governor's worked out an agreement where if we advance the money from corrections to the board, then that problem in FY13 can be resolved.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. If in the next day or so, we can just circle back and just make sure that in fact we're not talking about a date before the 28th for either of those two things. Thank you, sir.
Representative Rotunda.